Okay, awesome. So, well, welcome everybody. Happy Monday. It's what are we in week two? Some maybe in week 2.5, week three. That's where you are in this journey. Everybody has a different start time. I'm just going to put in the chat here. You can probably see at the bottom of the screen here the bit.ly, or you can hold up your phone to get the QR code. But I'll just type in the chat bit.ly/2309 new fam. So that will get you to the slides, and yeah, so you can follow along if you want, and we can go from there. So my name's Stephanie Doddick, and I'm with ARPDC in the Edmonton Regional Learning Consortium office. So yeah, so I'm excited to be here with you, and I'm looking forward to learning some of your strategies and what you do to welcome newcomer families to your school community as well, and just learn more from this conversation. So these are just a few things that I've found in books and some of my practice as well, but you know, I'm interested to hear what you have to share. Awesome. So just oops, before we start, I'll just acknowledge my gratefulness for being on this land right now. I don't know if any of you have planted sunflowers, and they're just starting in there's some big ones. I got one of those, looked for the seed pack that had the tallest sunflowers, and they're over my fence, and they're just vibrant, and I love sunflowers. And but what I didn't know was that they're indigenous to North America, to this area, to all across, and yeah, but then newcomers came. They said, wow, what an amazing flower. There's so many gifts to this flower. It's food, it's oil, it's beauty. And so in Russia, there were some Russian immigrants, sent them back home, and then they proliferated there and eventually became the national flower of Ukraine. They're the symbol for mental health. Yeah, so there's just so many pieces of the sunflower, and it's just kind of like the harbinger of fall is kind of what I kind of look at sunflowers as. So I just like to extend my gratefulness to being on this land. I'm in Treaty 6 here in Sherwood Park, and for all of you, for which treaty areas you're joining us from, and just the immense gratitude I have for the knowledge keepers and elders who are with us today and who've gone before us and shared their knowledge. And I'd just like to recognize the land as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those on whose territory we reside, work, and play. So a little bit about our session today, just some of the things we'll be covering is what is family engagement? We'll be talking a little bit about that. And why is family engagement so important for multilingual students? And also the 5 strategies that foster multilingual engagement collaboration with multilingual communities. So we'll be using Slido, and I'll show you on the next slide how to connect to that. Or if Slido isn't working for you, feel free to type in the chat any of your responses. I saw that we had I don't know, over 30 people registered for this session, which was like, whoa, this is great. And but then, I understand that a lot, just from school commitments, family commitments, that it's not everybody's able to attend, but that's totally fine. So, but Slido is one way. It's a Google Chrome extension that I add to my Google Slides, and it's just a little bit of an interaction sort of piece that goes with that. So you see there's my email down at the bottom, stephanie.doddick@ERLC. So if you have any questions or anything after the presentation that you're wondering about, please don't hesitate to reach out. And also, I'd just like to remind you that, and I hope that we'll have enough time at the end that you would have been, upon your registration, would have been sent a survey link. So if you want to, during the presentation at some time, find that survey link, and then you can provide some feedback on this. I would be very appreciative. So, but I'll remind you at the end again as well. Awesome. So let's get started. So Slido is, you can access Slido two different ways. You can either hold up your phone to the Google or to the QR code, and so it'll give you some prompts, and you can also, there's a Q&A section at the embedded in it as well. It's all anonymous, and then you can answer any questions that will show up later on in the slide deck. And then it'll also go through the series of polls as they come up. So, or if you don't have your phone available and you have another tab open, you can just go to slido.com and you just enter that 1756320. So I'll just give you a second there, but that QR code will show up for all of anytime I ask one of these Slido type questions. So yeah, so awesome, great. So hopefully that all works for you, but we'll see how this goes. It's always one of the fun things about online. Does the tech work? So if you have had a chance to screen that same QR code, or if you're already in Slido, there is this question that probably came up on your phone. I have it on mine here. It says, what do you consider family engagement to be? So what's your understanding of family engagement? I'm interested to hear about that. Got a couple of participants typing. 6. Awesome. Active engagement in student learning, involvement in and with the school, and they take an interest and participate in the child's education and events at school. When families feel like their involvement is important. Great, these are great answers. Wanting to be on parent council, communication with school staff. Yep. Providing opportunities to build relationships in and out of school setting with school community. Yeah. Participating in planning the student's plan. Yes. Having the ability for families to communicate, be involved in the school, feel part of the school community, connecting families to the educational system, making them aware of the community. Yeah. And having family members feel like they are part of the school community. Great. We got about 5 responses around school and 4 around school community. And then, yeah, family. Awesome. Great. I really appreciate that feedback on family engagement. So another question I have for you is, what have been some successes that you've had to engage newcomer families? What are some things that you've done that you've noticed, wow, newcomer families, they're doing all those things that you listed in that family engagement question? Family intake interviews. Yeah. Right. Great. Awesome. You got meetings, ask student plans, parents. Okay, sending links, community opportunities, seeing them participate, having interpreters, using a translator, intake meetings. School communication translations, right? Family social events like a family dance, having group meetings. Great. Awesome. Sweet. Yeah. So school communications and interpreters. Okay. Let's see the next one. On the flip side, we've had some great successes. What have been some challenges to get those newcomer families to engage with the school community? Language barriers. Yeah. Language. Work schedules. Yes. Transportation. Cultural differences. Seeming lack of interest in school, community, or the student's education. Awesome. Got a couple more. Language barriers is a bit. Oh, yeah. Having so many students in different schools, like elementary, junior high, high school. Try to keep track of them all. Yeah. Great. Awesome. Yeah. Work schedules. I was talking with a lady today who said that, she was working with like a parent. She's a classroom teacher, and one of the parents from Ukraine, the mom, and she has her boy, but she's working two jobs. So son's in daycare till 5 p.m. after school, and then she picks him up and then takes him to her next job that she works until 11 p.m. So I'm just like, wow, that's hard. So, and then because he's here alone, dad's still in Ukraine. Oh, breaks my heart. So, yes, but work schedules. All right. So let's see. This is a little bit from this Garcia, Frunzi, Flores, that they say that family engagement is ongoing, meaningful interaction between schools and families that's characterized by two-way communication, and its focus is on supporting student learning. So it's an active partnership and a shared responsibility between families and educators. So that's our interpretation of what engagement is. And sometimes, it takes some time for families who come from different cultural backgrounds that have different interpretations of what the definitions of school and the roles of a parent within a school are, that it takes some coaching and some practice to foster that. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but definitely. So this is from the Toolkit of Resources for Engaging Families and the Community and Partners of Education. So I thought I had that linked, but I'll see if I can get that link for you there so you can access that. So I think we all kind of understand the importance of family engagement, because students do the best when their parents are involved in their education, regardless of the home language or whether or not the family speaks the language of the school, right? We always, want our students to do the best, and parents want that as well. And also, showing that interest in schoolwork and school life has a considerable impact on academic outcomes and can be achieved in any language and at any age, so even, our English Canadian born students who, have the opportunity to talk about their day at some point with their parents, what they learned in school, what they talked about in school, has, lots of impact on student learning. So yeah, so that's just a quote from from a book, and I have it linked later on in the presentation, but it's Westernhof and Jones Vo and Marcus. And sorry about the glare, powerful practices for supporting English learners. And in the next couple of slides, you'll see that I have a link to where you can find that. But it's these authors are Canadian, like whoop whoop. So we have some even from that standpoint. You'll notice throughout the presentations, I have some that are from the States, because there's a lot of writers about our multilingual students that are centered in the States. So that was from, oh, there's the link, like I said. If you have the bit.ly here up, then it's hyperlinked in here and it'll take you to Corwin. Not that I'm promoting Corwin or anything, but that's just one place where you can find it. You can find it in other places as well. It just gives you a little brief of what the book's all about. Anyway, we have a little bit of a myth. Some people, like they think that that parents might believe that their lack of proficiency in English limits their ability to help their children academically. So maybe that inhibits them from approaching the school. Maybe it inhibits them from helping with homework. Maybe it inhibits them from, going to the family dance or whatever it may be. But the fact is that those parents who ensure that their children attend school regularly and on time are well nourished, well rested, appropriately clothed for weather conditions, with completed homework and administrative forms. They're doing wonders to prepare their children for a day of learning. So it doesn't matter. We need to, highlight to parents that, getting your child to school on time, that they have a lunch with them, they have snacks, healthy snacks, that they've, had time to rest, that these are important things that you're doing for their child and for their learning. So, so we need to kind of change and shift that thinking that parents come with. Again, that's from Powerful Practices. So just another question here for you. So I'd just like you to think, because, back to this slide, parents think that okay, come on, let's go back to that slide. So parents may think that they don't have anything to offer for their children because of English limits with the language barriers and things like that. But, from this fact, seeing that there are many assets that parents can bring to help their child be successful in the classroom, thinking about that, what other family strengths should we make use of in our classrooms and in our schools so that, that families can support student learning and achievement in the school? So along with that, their child is well rested, they filled in the forms, they've, brought a lunch. What are other things that they can do? Yeah, sharing their culture and traditions, right? Yeah, awesome. Some cultural teachings and expertise. Teaching of their culture and tradition. Yeah, so so many stories, and how do those cultural practices that they bring, how do those connect into their learning, and what they're learning in school today, how does that connect to their country and their home? Even volunteering, right? Yeah, so so many things that that they can do, like whether it's selling tickets at the family dance or the lunch program or whatever it may. They do. Many parents place a high value on education. They do, absolutely. So, because they want what's best for their children. Okay. So that's from a parent perspective, but think about like those communities that parents bring with them. So the Filipino community or the Syrian community or the German community or the Ukrainian community. What kind of strengths should we make of those community strengths should we make use of in our classrooms in our school? Even from like other centers or things like that. Maybe the parent can't read aloud, but they're part of some heritage language club, like the German club or whatever it may be. Yeah, find out the story of how others were able to succeed. Yeah, awesome. Great. Yeah, so like community experts, right? So and finding some mentors or whatever that how they transitioned and became uh, part of the community. Awesome. That's a hard question. So awesome. So let's see if we can find some answers for some of these questions. When we think about, we're gonna kind of, I got 5 strategies for you, or 5 areas that we're gonna look into when it comes to welcoming our newcomer families. And the first one, and this one's kind of just creating that welcoming environment, right? So I'd just like you to reflect, so ways that your school creates a welcoming environment for our multilingual families, right? So when they walk into the school, what do you think their first impressions would be for the first time when they walk into the school? Are they like, how is the office welcoming them? Do they know how to get to the office? Sometimes I've been in some schools and I can't even find out how to get to the office, right? So it's it's kind of a woven way. Do they see themselves represented somehow when they're walking into the building? So those are some things to consider. And yeah, is there a welcome procedure for families who don't speak English? How, what kind of systems do you have in place for your office staff that it's not a surprise that when somebody walks in that doesn't speak English, they have a routine that they go by. And like I said earlier, do they see their language or culture reflected in the school? Are those some things that indicate that, oh yeah, like the assets that I'm bringing with my culture and my language is an accepted thing here. Are there family and student mentors who are part of that welcoming process, right? So, not only that our students start to have somebody that they can rely on to navigate the school, but also are there family, others, newcomers who have maybe speak the same language, or that they're able to help those newcomer families work their way through the system. So, and even this is just one simple little link here. It's let's see if I have it hyperlinked. Hopefully my internet isn't too bad, but it's a post that's on LinkedIn, and here we go. Maybe it'll load. It's just a wall of welcomes. Here we go. It was from LinkedIn. It's from the Language Friendly School, and the activity was how to say hello in your language. So students shared what they did a self-portrait and what their name was, and then what languages they speak, where they were born, and what their name means, and how to say hello. So it's just a nice, seeing something like that when you walk in the school makes you feel like maybe you're not alone. So, and that you do have something to share. So That's a little link in there from Language Friendly School, and we're going to touch on that program a little bit more in just a bit. So, and also, you know, there's activities to continue creating that welcoming environment, and sometimes it may happen throughout the school year, and then those artifacts that are created by students, they get, you know, presented and left for the beginning of the new year, and then, you know, as projects kind of continue. So this is just another example. This one's out of Calgary. It's from the Education Matters, and it's just a quick little video. I'll show you part of it here on a project that students did here. Falcon Ridge School.
And so the program that was offered by Falcon Ridge was connecting students with technology that would allow them to express what they were feeling, what they were showcasing in their communities, in their homes, through photos.
My photograph is about our culture food because when we eat it, it helps us feel like we're calm, and we eat it mostly before we start praying.
Oh dear.
This photo reminds me of when I go to weddings and dance my culture clothes.
This is my culture festival. I'm reading with my home and with my mom and dad. Like, this is my culture, and my culture is so important for me.
It was a special day on that day, and we were all gathering together, and then we were making our cultural food. It was really fun because I had a camera and I could share what my people did to everybody else. It was really nice.
Providing them with the technology, but also the instructional training to be able to do so, culminated in a wonderful project where diverse students in diverse communities were able to show not only what was wonderful about their culture, but some of the core things that they wanted to communicate that they may not have been able to do in writing, particularly if they had English language barriers, if their communities or their families had English language barriers. This, I think, provided that opportunity for us to connect in a very inclusive way and for the community to really take part in the learning that was going on in the classroom and in the school broadly.
The grant has been huge because the cameras have gone home with the kids, and it's opened up a whole new world to how they can explain what their life is like.
And this is mostly the biggest project I've ever been a part of because I've just never been able to show who the real me and what I can do.
I love that. I've never been able to show who the real me is. So, you know, just offering that opportunity. So, I mean, it is a grant. It probably took this teacher a lot of work and a lot of planning to make that happen. But, you know, we need to think about like how that impacted families and our students as well. So just an idea. Another idea that doesn't cost as much money or involves a grant is a language of the month. So just highlighting the languages that are spoken in your school, depending on the number of students that you have in your school. Like in the school that I was in, there were, you know, there were 4 students who spoke Spanish from Spanish backgrounds. So I called them our Pine Street Community Spanish experts. And then the next month there was Finnish experts. And the following month there was Tagalog experts. And then, so just finding some key phrases, you know, how to count, you know, just a couple of things where the languages are spoken in the world and how, you know, maybe some of those words that are used in English as well, right? So there's lots of places that you can find them and like to find some resources, and also, you know, talking to parents as well. So getting some of that information from parents, you know, like how do you say please in Arabic or Hindi or whatever? Could you help me? Because we'd really like to share that with our school community, and they can be, you know, help with this kind of project. So that's one idea. And also just, you know, using the in intercultural interpreters, right? So we want to make sure, especially sometimes we need conversations about ISPs, or maybe even if we have parent-teacher interviews, maybe sometimes there's some bigger stakes parent-teacher interviews that you may have that kind of work with that, you know, or just trying to figure out and navigate the school for the first time. So this is just a sheet I put together for based on J7's work guidelines for teachers working with intercultural interpreters, and from the ATA Accent magazine. So just kind of highlighting some of those pieces, and you know, talking about shared values, and you know, sharing about the reason for the meeting, and you know, what are the students' academic achievements, things like that. And you know, just realizing a few points here when talking with parents, that understanding that smiling can mean agreement, confusion, apprehension, or politeness. So it could be a whole range of things. We want to make sure that the message is clear, and that silence, it could mean confusion, non-acceptance, disapproval, or agreement. So again, a big range. So some of those nonverbal messages that are people practice depending on where they are, then we need to make sure some of those things are highlighted. If you're working with intercultural interpreters, and or you know, you have schools or whatever that are working with them, then I have a link to a PDF in here in the document, so you can print this out if you want to give some tips and tricks based on that article. So yeah, so thinking about intercultural interpreters as well. And there's lots of areas, places where you can access intercultural interpreters. For example, Catholic Social Services. We have a lot of school settlement workers in schools. There's the Edmonton Mennonite Center for Newcomers. There's lots of links, multicultural health brokers, and even down in Calgary, there's what are they called? The Bridge something, I think, as well. So yeah, so connect with your community and see where you can find. There is also places where you can get online interpreters that meet over Google Meet or wherever it may be as well. So just some things to consider. And also part of that welcoming new families is to help with that integration, some things like course schedules, the layout of the school, what's the homework policy, attendance policy, you know, that there's a mandatory phone call and note when a child is sick. Do they know like how to leave that information? Do they know that they need to leave their son or daughter's first and last name? And, you know, if they tell the teacher or the homeroom or whatever it may be, that they leave that information. Maybe you have a little bit of a script or something that you can provide for them that they can kind of fill in those things. You know, what's the discipline policy, immunizations? You know, are they aware of the different types of clothing for the different types of weather or phys ed or whatever it may be? If you have a cafeteria, what are some of those options? If you have lunch applications, or if you offer lunch, what are some of those things? This is out of the States, so I think they have some of those, you know, subsidized lunch places. I can't think of where, maybe we have it in Alberta, but I'm just not aware. But, you know, or back to school night information. How do progress reports and report cards work? What about parent-teacher conference dates? Do they know about what happens at parent-teacher interviews, and when they happen? And, you know, ahead of time, if they know that they're working evenings or whatever, what other kind of options are there for them? Like, they may think that it's just cut and dry. Like, I'm working from 5 to 8, so I can't be there. So I'm not coming. So, but maybe understanding that there are ways to work around that. And any special education services, and even just like our guidance counselors, our inclusive ed people, and the non-teaching staff, like how important they are. So those are just some things to think about too when you're helping your families, and things that they need to be aware of, because, you know, if they've come to Canada like right around now in July, they won't think about weather, winter, and how cold it gets. But, you know, maybe they're coming in December, that might change their outlook a little bit. But just some things to consider there. Also, you know, just thinking about your website information or links that are available. Like you said, somebody said having translations in other languages, like on your website, that those are available for parents. If you can work it out with your IT, I know that there's quite a few school districts that you can choose what language the information will be read in. I'm trying to think of, it's s'mores. Some school districts, they use s'mores to send out their weekly information bulletins. There are options to translate, so that you can have translatable features in there as well, so that parents can choose the language that they want to read it in. So, and then, you know, just also thinking about English language learning support programs, like, you know, what is your school doing to support that development, language development for their child? And then, you know, that intake and assessment procedure, you know, are parents aware that what's happening with that intake and assessment when we're measuring and assessing their language, or their child's language proficiency? So, and also just thinking again, just orientation information for your new students. Again, information in languages other than English, giving a tour of the building for both students and parents. So they just have like a little physical concept of where their son or daughter is going to be. And, you know, even phasing in that reception and orientation program over several days. Like, it doesn't have to be like they show up and then they're in the door. Like, what are some ways that they can, you know, integrate slowly so it's not so overwhelming? Having some parent ambassadors to newcomer parents, and the opportunity to meet with the settlement workers. So there's lots of places like I said, and Action for Healthy Communities. They have Swiss workers as well, Catholic Social Services as well. And, you know, just doing that family interview, that intake process. So this is out of the States. I apologize, but this was a really nice one, just a nice template to take a look at. And sorry, it's not very big, but oops. And so my apologies. But, you know, just looking at the languages that they'd like to be, that the family would prefer to communicate with the school, you know, what languages their children learned first, what prior education they had, and then offering it in a translated version, right? So if you can work with with intercultural interpreters, if you can maybe partner up with bigger school districts, if you're from a smaller one, that maybe you can partner up some things, or, you know, working with some some interpreters that you may just hire shortly for a short term, that they can help you translate some of these documents and have those available. Back to a language-friendly school. This is an initiative that came out of Boise, the Ontario Institute University, yeah, so down in Toronto, and Jim Cummins is from there, and so they started this, this initiative called a language-friendly school, and it's just basically showing how your family's languages and child's languages and cultures are welcome in the school. So having opportunities to work with that. There's a link for some more information about yourself becoming a language-friendly school. Even thinking about announcements. When you're thinking about the morning announcements, maybe you have there's a piece of it that's on one day a student is sharing the announcements in their language, like in Tagalog or in German or Ukrainian. And then the next day, there's a portion of the announcements that are shared in another language or whatever. So really highlighting some of that. And then they also really highlight having peer ambassadors. So just having those mentors and that they can work through and and navigate their space a little bit better. So I don't know if you're familiar with Tan Huynh. He's a big podcaster in the field, and he interviewed these two founders of the language-friendly school. It's about an hour long or so I won't play it here because you have better things to do right now. But if you have a little bit of time or you're just listening, you can just turn that on, take a listen to his podcast about that, interviewing the actual experts in this. And yeah, so that was a little bit about welcoming that environment. So thinking about, language friendly, peer ambassadors, are there, how do those ideas kind of align with, what you do at your school? Or is there an area that you are interested in and wish to improve on? So I'm interested to hear your feedback and see what you might find, what you might have to share. Or, we're a pretty small group too. If you feel comfortable adding your voice and unmuting, that's totally works as well. But how does some of that stuff, creating that welcoming environment, align with what you have?
I'm just going to chime in if I can. So in my district, I'm overseeing all of the Ukrainian newcomers. And because it's becoming so large, it's becoming almost unmanageable. So some of these ideas that you had presented up to this point, I think that what I need to do, and I think it would be extremely beneficial, is because it's difficult to be everywhere at the same time, is to create, be it a video, be it a PowerPoint, just to kind of give them those basic upfront rules. And some of these things that you mentioned, I think would be absolutely beneficial. Yeah, and knowing that, having a little bit of background, then I would have the opportunity to meet with them and perhaps, kind of continue what they understood from that.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah. So something that they can just quickly refer to and, maybe a guiding framework or whatever. And then, yeah, that would be great. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. You're with, G Sacred, right? So yeah, so got a lot of work there. So great. So another one, hosting a culture club, highlight different cultures each month. Oh yeah, so kind of like the language of the month sort of idea. That's awesome. And great. Find ways to integrate students, make friends. Yeah, high school is so hard. So, multicultural nights for families, perform, share foods. Yeah, great. Liturgies, assemblies. The students are buddied up with a student translator to help them ease into joining us. Great. Yeah. 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 So, yeah, if there's ways like high school, they finding those, again, those peer ambassadors and finding ways to integrate. And, sports, not all of them play sports. So trying to find, because usually sports are one way, but not everybody does that. So, okay. So another point that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to have a little reflection question at the end of this section as well, just to think about, just to cue you in. But, building some relationships with multilingual families. So, when we think about what Diane's Fenner and Sydney, I always forget her first name, Sydney Snyder, they mention here is that multilingual families may be engaged in numerous ways that are not apparent or perhaps in line with how we traditionally think of parent engagement. So we need to start from a place of empathy by considering what else may be going on in their lives. And some of you kind of addressed that initially as well, like their work schedules and that it can make that difficult language barriers as well. So, and we also need to it's important to recognize that multilingual families may come from cultures where parents are not expected or encouraged to work in partnership with teachers or take part in school events, right? So there are many cultures where it's just like, here you go, and your place of knowledge, and we respect you, and we entrust you. So here you go. you have at her. So so just thinking about that, some of that background a little bit. So, and when we think about it too, we want to change that deficit interpretation to an alternative interpretation, and then reflect on what's possible to do there. So for example, like parents never come to after school meetings, right? So maybe they work the evening shift. So what's something that they could do? Maybe you could ask parents when it would be best to connect with them, or offer telephone or video conferencing options, or see if the family is available for early morning meetings instead. So just kind of working with some. If you're, working with staff, feel free to take a copy of this, and, so that you can kind of, and there's no right or wrong answer, but just, matching up, where's my kind of thinking coming from, or what am I noticing? And then what's a different interpretation that could align with that, and what's an alternative that you could come and think of. So, so when we think about that, another way to think is also doing some community walks as a staff. So these are student or parent-led tours that help break down the barriers between schools and communities. I know for larger centers, this could be kind of difficult because, students could come from wherever in the city. So I'm thinking Edmonton, right? You could sign up for, you could be living in the Northeast and go to school in the Southwest or whatever. But so it may be kind of difficult to find out what those schools, what those communities are, where their students are coming from. But, for smaller places, even just touring the neighborhood. So helping teachers and staff members appreciate the life and soul of the community where they teach. Sometimes teachers, I know from here in Sherwood Park, there's a lot of teachers who come from Edmonton and teach here. So they may not know all the ins and outs of Sherwood Park, or vice versa. And then it helps develop deeper relationships with families. There's community resources that you can tap into. It enriches instruction, so connecting in the classroom some of the families' cultures and backgrounds. And then, learning about those physical environments where students live. And, just it helps learn about the pride that many shop owners feel for their businesses or community. And, trying to do that in the first week of school, these are some ideas proposed by Snyder and Fenner from the article shared by Saphir. So there's a link to some more information about community walks if you're curious about some of that. And here's like a little planning template that's Support Ed, Diane Stairfenner and Sydney Snyder put together. So just, to help you plan and things that you want teachers to see and learn, right? So maybe it's about the types of grocery stores or types of foods or things like that students share their stories, ideas. And also just finding out the strengths of newcomer communities and bring them into the school community. So these are two different examples. One, just in the essence of time. They're short little videos, they're 3 minutes long, but this is, calling on all the Somali grandmothers and how they make woven art with the practice that they don't use any tools. And they make baskets and lots of different items that they make. And just, having them as teachers and seeing like, it's not that easy to do. But, how they create these amazing pieces of artwork and functional pieces, right? So, and also even just thinking about your music classroom and your music room. How are you welcoming all the songs and all the music from other parts of the world that relate to the students in the classroom at the time, right? So something that's meaningful for those students. This video highlights how these students, speak different languages, and then the music teacher says, "Oh, well, we've got somebody from Uganda in our classroom this year, so we're going to find some Ugandan music," and they're, through the student, through the family, can find some of that information and then help that student become a leader throughout that portion so that they can help the other kids in the classroom pronounce the words correctly, sing the song correctly, things like that. So it's a little idea there for you. So feel free. So I don't know, what are you doing to build relationships with multilingual families? And is there anything that you'd like to, it was just a quick little blurb, but is there anything that you are thinking that you might want to work on over the year or the next little bit? If you want, feel free to turn on your mic or add anything into this Slido. Finding out parents who are willing to help translate. Yeah. And hook up family connections that way. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. So they may have a little bit more English. They may, yeah. Or even if you have like an English document and then maybe you run it through Google Translate and they can help kind of make it right. So there's some ideas. That's great. leaving a list and growing it from year to year. Yeah. So this is what we did here. Okay. We did this document. And okay, we've got these languages covered. And then we've got new families come in this year that we don't have any language. Build that in. I think if I'm interpreting that correctly, I'm not sure. But awesome. Great. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit briefly about communication and communicating with families. So again, it's not just about how we can reach families with important information, but necessary that families feel that they can communicate with their children's teachers and schools, right? Because it's like that engagement piece, it's two-way, right? So we need to not only just impart the information, but do parents feel like they can communicate and impart information with us? So when you're thinking about sharing information with families, try to consider, do all families have access to the information? Will all families be able to understand the information that's shared? Do they have a way of letting you know if they don't understand? And what can we do to make the information more accessible and easier to understand for all families? So we'll look into a couple of ideas relating to these questions. So, and you know, schools are great, like with social media, but some of the things that we need to think about is, one, it can be an effective tool for sharing information. You know, maybe you have a Facebook page, maybe you have an Instagram page for your school, whatever it may be. But we also need to think it shouldn't be dependent on, though, because all families, they may not regularly use social media sites, maybe because of work, maybe because of internet plans, maybe cell phone plans, whatever it may be. So, and also if you're using that translations of the messages should be shared. And also just thinking about translated materials or any notes that go home. They can be sent home in students' homework folders, but it's important to have reliable translations of materials. So especially if it's high stakes communications, and that they, just to be cognizant that parents or guardians, they may have a range of literacy skills in their home language. So maybe they are, you're sending translated materials home, but maybe the student or the parent may not be able to read or write in their home language. So just some things to consider about that. Also thinking about if you have bilingual staff or family liaison on hand, that it can be invaluable for fostering that parent communication and outreach. And also that it's that we're not calling those bilingual staff away from their teaching or student support to interpret, and because they have a job to do, and just constantly being called upon that's we need to be aware of their job as well. So what are some other ways that we can think about that? And also face-to-face, it's a great way to communicate with our families. And then just thinking about possible opportunities like during drop-off or pickup, community events, school events, just a way to connect with parents that way is great as well. And then, and when you're having those face-to-face opportunities, will you need an interpreter for those interactions? So is it like parent-teacher interviews, ISPs, whatever it may be? This document, it was shared in Diane Spenner's book, this culturally responsive teaching for multilingual learners. And this was developed by Carolyn Espinoza Navarrete, and for a school that she was working at. And what I really like about it is it's just a generic family invitation form that goes through, you know, all the kind of, if you have a plan of what your school events are going to be, whether it's parent workshop or an open house or athletics or dance performance. You know, it's just they become used to the form and then know what to look for. So like the day of the week, the month, the date, the time, and what the event's for, things like that, and whether they plan to attend or if they need an interpreter. So, you know, so it's just kind of a nice, generic, low, you know, lots of visuals in there, so you can, so parents can kind of interpret some of that as well. So, just some more information about that. So when I saw that, I like, oh wow, that's a great idea. So, so thinking about that, communication, those are just a couple of ideas. I'm sure there's many, many more. But in communicating effectively with multilingual families, what do you think about some of these ideas, like the generic form, or even just you know, social media, things like that, those kind of considerations. So, and let's put that back up there, put that question. What are some things that you might consider when you're communicating, in terms of communicating? Talked about social media, things like that. Improve on translating. Oh, okay. Our social media posting is awesome. That would be great. Okay. That generic form. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And text the parents. Yeah. Texting the parents. I know like some divisions, there's an app called Talking Points, which parents can choose the language that they receive the message in. And it's also kind of like Remind. So yeah, students assigned a mentor teacher that speaks the language when possible. But Talking Points is that, yeah, there's a number of different languages if you Google that, but some school districts aren't too keen on using it, just especially with using it with students, just because the information is housed outside of Canada. So the data and stuff that's collected. So you definitely talk with your school division if that's something that's permissible with you. But even texting, so they have a little bit of time to just you know, go over that information, have some time to process it, maybe translation or whatever it may be. Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. All right. Oops, there's still somebody typing. I'll go back. Whoop. Went back too far. There we go. Sorry. Somebody was typing. I hope that didn't go away. All right. Okay. Sorry about that. So the other thing is what we want to, a strategy that we want to deal with is kind of overcoming those barriers to multilingual family engagement. You know, I mentioned earlier about settlement workers in schools, like Catholic Social Services, the Edmonton Mennonite Center for Newcomers, Calgary Bridge Service for Youth, Action for Healthy Communities. You know, and, you know, so we kind of talked, you know, in the onset, some of the barriers, the struggles, the challenges that we have with engaging families, and how we can overcome those. This is hyperlinked. This document here is hyperlinked, so you can access it. It's within this Padlet here. That's going to come up. I believe. Yeah, so maybe not right now, but yeah, click on it. Maybe your internet's faster than mine. And then these are just some, some things to consider. Let me go back here. And so like language, so some solutions like having parent liaisons, bilingual staff, translated materials, home language, phone tree volunteers, transportation. What are some ways of some solutions to overcome those? Time, childcare, understanding the school system, the role of the parent, so having family meetings, school tours, community volunteers. And then, there's that fear. So having some support for our multilingual families, adult education programs, family support groups, and things like that. So I have a quick little video here I'm going to show you. Hopefully things don't blow up on me. That takes forever to load. So let's take a look. This is
So in an effort to help educators build relationships with our multilingual families, we host events like tonight, our parent meet and greet. We do twice a year at multiple locations, and we invite all the teachers in the district to come, as well as all the families, because we feel like it's important to meet families where they are. So we want to change the face of engagement. We don't always want it to be parents coming to us. We want to go to them. And so that's what we're doing here tonight, is meeting families where they are on a neutral ground, and hopefully that will help build those relationships. And you can use this opportunity to talk about your students or your children and how well they're doing in classes, or just talk about their interests and things that would help the teacher help them in school.
My name is Sissy. I live here almost 5 years.
Yep.
I have 5 children.
5 children?
Yeah, 3 boys, 2 girls. Sorry.
It's 2 boys,
2 boys, 3 girls.
And my name is Iremi, and I'm the second daughter. She said she don't have any question, but she just want you guys to just help us out.
Absolutely.
Have any help.
One thing that I would encourage you to start doing, because you're in 11th grade, is to start thinking about what you want to do after high school, right? Because if there's colleges that you want to visit or things that you want to do in terms of what your plans are for the future, now is a good time to start gathering information about that.
She said one of her teachers told her that there's gonna be teachers coming around from the school district, so it kind of gave us a chance to talk with the teachers, and so that's why she came here.
So yeah, so you can see like having interpreters available is just a huge piece. All right. So feel free to tap on that and share it with other leaders in your school, or or people who are just curious for some more information. Also, just thinking about that, when we think about parent involvement and engagement, that Han, she kind of goes through she talks about the 4 stages of immigrant involvement. So, and they, how schools can help address those unique challenges and develop some strategies. So to help parents across all those 4 stages. So maybe they're cultural survivors. So they may be recently arrived, you know, like the mom I was telling you about at the beginning, who picked up her son from daycare at 5 o'clock, then took him so that she could go clean offices until 11. And, you know, so her prime concern is securing food and shelter. So she's just trying to survive right now. And, you know, she doesn't have a whole lot of time to learn about and navigate the Canadian school system. So she's just out there to, you know, make sure that she keeps a roof over her head and her children fed. But then there's also cultural learners. They may be more comfortable with the new school culture and the Canadian school system. Maybe they're more comfortable, like that mom that we just saw in the previous slide video, attending workshops in their native language. They're likely to participate more in parent-teacher conferences if they have some language support. And then something like some of you have mentioned earlier, so maybe they're going to be like a cultural connector. They're familiar with educational terminology, policies, procedures, and they may want to work with those cultural survivors and cultural learners to support them, and help them understand the school programs and activities. And then there's the cultural leaders, and they can become the voice of their ethnic and language community, and advocate for parents in the other stages. And so maybe they become leaders, participate in training. So just to note, there's an article in here by Han where she talks a little bit more about those stages of immigrant parent involvement. But she does note that the amount of time an immigrant has been in Canada does not determine a parent's stage of involvement, and parents do not necessarily move from one stage to another. So if a parent has been in the country for 10 years, say, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will, you know, that they're going to be cultural leaders right away. So, yeah. And yeah, sorry, Lynn, just to answer your question here, these slides and the recording will be sent out to you from the ERLC office, and should be getting those in the next day or two. Yeah, when this is all over. Yeah, thanks for coming. And yeah, so just some thinking about processes and strategies to facilitate effective newcomer engagement. So from collaboration to capacity development to assets orientation to multimodal communications, language supports, continuous improvement. So as we're working through those 4 stages of you know, cultural, our new immigrant parent involvement, as they work through those stages, these are different strategies that you can help them in different areas. So there is a link here. Feel free. These are just screenshots of the document. It's chapter 5, page 5 and 6. So you can just click on the link, scroll down to chapter 5, page 5 and 6, and you can see this in bigger print, print it off, have fun with it. And also just the last area that we're going to talk about is partnering with parents. And again, this is hyperlinked here, also from chapter 5 of that, from the same documents, from the same toolkit from the previous slide. But, you know, thinking about parents and educators partner to increase student achievement. So how we can prepare educators in that parent partnership relationship, and how we can prepare parents in those different areas. And I mean, this is not only just for our multilingual students, but also, you know, for our Canadian parents. I don't know about you, but I've noticed like lots of parent councils, they have a hard time getting volunteers, no matter what the language, right? So this may be something that you may want to look into a little bit more about how, you know, you can build those partnerships a little bit better. And, you know, just like it was said earlier, family engagement, it's a shared responsibility of schools, families, and communities for student achievement. So we want to build that build that up. So those were just I think, do I have some more? Oh, yes, I do have some more. Sorry. And also we want to just highlight the positive impact of ongoing home language use and development of English language growth and academic achievement. So, even thinking about these routines here, I'm going to take a chance and see if this loads. Thinking about language routines and things that parents can do to foster not only English language development, but home language development as well. My internet. So this is a document that it's offered in a couple of different languages. One's in English, and one's in English, there's a couple of different languages like Spanish, things like that. So, maybe you can take a look if you have someone or if you yourself are fluent in other languages, maybe you can translate this document. So I think I know what's wrong with my internet, and it's my children. So there's also another video. I'm not going to show it right now, but just take some time to watch this about parent university. So where they're building some practices, building some capacity with parents as well. So this, if you just tap on this, it'll take you to the link of the video. And just thinking about engaging parents in making those connections to key vocabulary and concepts, building relevant background knowledge in the home language. So, if you're sharing lessons or whatever that you, that you have kind of an update of a week ahead of the time that, okay, these are some of the concepts, this is some of the key vocabulary that we'll be discussing. How does that connect to things that or things that in your culture, or things that you've experienced before, and that they can talk about with their children in preparation for the week's learning? So just some ideas there. I have a link here on inviting families to co-create multilingual books. It was an article from the reading teacher, and so just how it's Australian researchers working in Fiji, and even though the instruction was mostly done in English in Fiji, that there's still a lot of home language being used. So they it was just a process and creating multilingual books, dual language books, with their home spoken languages and connecting that as well. So, whether it's from writing a recipe about a favorite dish that they like to eat, to whatever it may be. So you'll take some time to read that. It's a really quite interesting article about their research study there. And also just understanding the effects of home language loss and its impact on family and social relationships. There's an article in here just from the BBC. I've seen similar ones on CBC about how they've lost their home language even just after one generation. And I can speak to that myself personally. I was born here in Canada. My parents are from Germany, and I managed to keep my language still. But then part of my practice is, you start thinking more in English because I'm married to an English-speaking man, and so when we had kids, I tried, but I didn't try hard enough to keep that German language alive. So my kids are in their 20s now. They don't speak much German anymore. So you know, there's that little piece, you know, they like the food, they like the rouladen, they like this and the other, but you know, there's that little piece missing that they, you know, can't connect to their relatives back home in Germany. And you know, so I kind of did them a disservice. And but they've said, my daughter said to me, she goes, when we have kids, I want my kids just to think that you can only speak German. So I've been challenged that that they're only going to have an OMI that only speaks German. So that's one piece. But there's a powerful video here. It's a poem, 8 Confessions of My Tongue. Do we have time? We'll take a couple minutes time and then we're almost at our end here. And but it's just pretty moving when I saw this, and I wanted to share it with you. 3 minutes. Sorry, is that really loud?
8 Confessions of My Tongue. 1. I've snuck past the borders of another mouth today, made an accent taste like kinship, and watched myself drown in false comfort. There's always a countdown when you realize I am not fluent in Spanish. You expected the waterfall, the spit that crossed the ocean, the syllable suffocating dance, and it is a dance. This moving, weaving, searching, turn your back on what you can never keep up with. I contain so much sad brown mouth that I can't even pronounce Quiñones without a stranger examining the air it took to learn it too. Everything here is a thievius memory, a hungry thing gobbling itself into existence. I listen to Daddy Yankee, Evie Queen, Tego Calderon make a bastion for reggaeton in my throat, but can't tell you what the songs mean. I yell Mark Anthony lyrics and think volume equates to knowledge. I tell myself it's not lying if I feel something, but I'm always the last one to yell huepa, forever late to my own identity. 3, my tongue is a countryless serpent. They whisper of my fraud on the block and in the classroom, but all I have are these 2 false skins stitched into a name I've worn. So many of my family member stories I confuse my childhood for theirs. 4, I can't remember the last time I didn't use Google Translate to prove myself to a poem. 5, this means I am not as fluent as my poems. They are an imagined Latinidad, where I touch the shore and it accepts me, where my grandmother wasn't spit on every day for not knowing English, and you can see it in my father's amnesia. When I ask him about our indigenous language and he laughs, 6,000 dead bodies onto the dinner table. 6, I practice a self-torture in front of the mirror every single morning. Mimic whatever words I stole to make myself a more Latin thing. Cambiará. Servilleta, compañero, my skin, always mistaken for home, my last name, an invitation to strangers who say your parents should have taught you, but my parents say it's my fault. And I remember the first time I asked for help, when to use por y para in a sentence, and they said you just feel it. You're just supposed to feel it. 7, I don't. 8, my tongue is a gringo's last hope, a stutter beneath a foreign accent mark, a transcontinental thing stuck in its own ocean, and so I flood Quiñones onto my mother's lap. Que vergüenza, she says. Now you don't belong anywhere.
So we want to welcome those languages that parents are bringing and show them as an asset. And yeah, it's quite a powerful piece there. Sorry, let's go to the next slide. There we go. Awesome. So I don't know, is there some feedback that you'd like to share, or some areas in terms of overcoming those barriers, partnering with parents, that you thinking about, that you want to work on in your practice, or anything that aligns to what you already are doing? Or feel free to, turn your mic on if that's easier. See any dancing bubbles? So
I think if I can again,
please.
I think that the information that was given is kind of very thought-provoking information. And I think that if anything, it just kind of solidified how you can't work with families in isolation. They need to come together. They need to feel the support from each other, and to see that they are all in the same situation. And that's perfectly acceptable and normal, right? And I think, yeah, if there's anything, I would want to kind of just focus on that community sense, and what I can do to kind of encourage that they're not in isolation.
That's right.
Encourage what they have in place. And so, yeah, it was good.
Okay, great. Glad. Yeah, I know. And they're not alone. And we don't want them to feel alone, right? So awesome. Great. I have a couple more resources here. There we go. Oh, we got some Q&As, and I think I jumped ahead here. Yeah, just a couple of few more resources here for you. From this book, this Powerful Practices for Supporting English Learners, there is a webinar that, again, our Tan Nguyen interviewed the authors of this book. So feel free to take a look at that. There is also hyperlinked the Padlet that Sydney Snyder and Diane Stair-Fenner put together on culturally responsive teaching for multilingual learners. And that has the resources in there that I shared, along with lots more. So just also thinking, there's a couple of toolkit for resources for engaging families and community as partners. So building an understanding of family and community engagement, and building that cultural bridge. Coloring Colorado has how to create a welcoming classroom environment. They also have, there's a video in there that where one teacher talks about parent letters, and where parents write to the teacher about things that, either things that they want the teacher to know about their child, or like what maybe interests or whatever, or what, the hopes and dreams that they have for their child throughout the year. So it's quite a nice video there. The Canadian Multicultural Foundation has kind of a parent orientation guide. It's pretty long. You may want to take a look at that, see how you can adapt it to your situation, just for helping understand, the context of your school, and some things about homework, things and stuff like that. And, and also a link for working with students from immigrant families. There's also a multilingual learning toolkit that has resources for family engagement in there as well. Some books from about raising teens in a new country, raising young children in a new country. Some of these have translations available. In terms of literacy, there's Unite for Literacy, which has books for younger students, probably K-3 or K-2 maybe, where the narration is given in other languages. And Storybooks Canada is another option as well, and Ergo. There's lots of resources in there. Yeah, so reach out to parents, share their knowledge, traditions, and ask bilingual teachers, yes, to participate some more. Wonderful. So I hope we kind of covered our goals of the session, family engagement, the importance of it, the 5 strategies. And I don't know, are there any other questions or comments? And if you have some time for that survey that you got sent to you, that would be lovely. Hopefully I covered some of these. Oh, Roland. I love Roland. So yeah, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed today. So yeah, everything's pretty much hyperlinked in there. So when you get the slide deck sent to you in the PDF, just hover your cursor over a lot of those things and you'll be connected to that. Or again, you can go to this bit.ly/2309newfam and you'll have the slide deck right for you. Great. Thanks, Mary. So awesome. I'll just stop the recording. And if you have any other questions?